In professional wrestling, a lot of pro wrestlers get over. They could get over for various reasons, and an obvious one would be the way their entrance is filmed. A common phrase I would like to use with some professional wrestlers is like, "Oh, they're a walking entrance." An example of that is for modern day is Jey Uso. I mean, Jey Uso's solid in the ring, but let's be real, the dude is a walking entrance. His entrance got him over, and it helped get him a world title reign. Well, before we had Jey Uso nowadays, I did a little bit of brainstorming, and even during the few Raw live streams and even during Ringside Rant, I've said this in the podcasts. I kept saying he's the modern day version of former ECW wrestler, the Sandman. The Sandman was the definition of a walking entrance, especially with he had the Metallica playing, him walking around in the crowd, drinking a beer, smoking cigarettes with the kendo stick. His entrance was amazing. When he got into the ring, it was all over because I didn't really think he was that great of a wrestler, but his entrance got him so popular in the crowd. And I realized Dark Side of the Ring did an episode on the Sandman, and so I thought I would take a bit of time to go through that episode, talk about the Sandman, how he got over his dark side as well, because he's had a dark life with all the drugs and booze he's had. And I just find the Sandman to be such an interesting character and person too, because he comes off like a really nice guy from the interviews I've seen from him and the many experiences other people I've known had with him. But his journey has been super chaotic. And in this Dark Side of the Ring episode, they actually got a lot of people for it. They had Rob Van Dam, Sabu was in it, Bill Alfonso, Todd Gordon, Miss Peaches, Sandman's ex-wife, Sandman's son, Sandman's daughter. They even got Raven to be a part of this as well, which I was a little surprised. I'm surprised it took them this long because this episode was filmed in season 5 to get Raven, because they could have gotten him for other episodes. So it was cool to see him. And the thing that's crazy with the Sandman is his entire journey. I mean, in the beginning of the episode, Sandman talks about how before he got into professional wrestling, he actually was a Chippendale stripper, which I didn't know about before entering. So what happened was that Sandman, he was in and out of jail. He even said he was thrown in the hole for hitting an officer while he was serving his time in jail. And when he got out from prison, he was breaking into houses. He was all coked up. Sandman even said, like, the only true crime he committed was just him breaking into houses and snorting coke, but he's full of it there. The man has done some crazy stuff too. And one of those crazy stuff that he did was he was a solicitor. Right after he got out of jail, he was in the parties. Then he got talked to with a blonde woman who he thought he was going to do the horizontal mambo with, if you get where I'm going here. And when he and this woman go into a private room, he takes his shirt off, and she's actually a recruiter for Chippendale strippers. So Sandman, he was perfect for it. He would always stay up till 2:00 in the morning doing cocaine, stripping in the morning, and then he was basically soliciting. He actually got fired from his job because of the soliciting, and he was in with a few other guys. They were trying to make more money because they weren't paying a lot for being a Chippendale stripper. And the cops eventually figured out that Sandman was one of the people who was soliciting, and they were interrogating him, trying to get Sandman to rat him out, his group out, and he basically had two choices: either quit or turn on his group, and he rather quit. So Sandman, he basically did violate the law there, so he was full of claiming that him breaking into houses was the true crime he committed. So with his Chippendale's journey over, he decides to become a professional wrestler. And before he joined ECW with his Sandman gimmick, he was actually a legitimate like lifeguard gimmick. Like what he was wearing, he looked like a surfer who was all pilled up. Like it was a ridiculous gimmick that he was doing before he got into ECW. And even Todd Gordon himself, who was the founder of ECW, called the gimmick awful, but he was a great worker. And he wanted to bring him in, so we brought him in to use the Sandman gimmick. And Todd Gordon basically goes on here to claim saying that he was good in the ring. No, he's not. No, he's not. He was a terrible in-ring wrestler. Like, he's a great guy, great person, great gimmick, great entrance, but in the ring, it was all over. Like, everything was a 10 except for the in-ring work. He was a terrible in-ring wrestler. And so, where Sandman got that done gimmick with, that was what was going on with the Sandman early on. Todd Gordon eventually would sell the ECW to Heyman, and Heyman just basically changed his character into the Sandman that we all know and love. And I find it interesting how Sandman tells the story of how the Singapore Cane became a thing. Because you can't mention the Sandman without mentioning the Singapore Cane. He was one of the first people to really popularize it in the American market. And what happened was during the time that he started using it, this was when Michael Fay incident was going on. This was when he was an American teenager who had to go to Singapore, and he made the bright decision to vandalize. Fay was apparently like spray painting multiple properties, stole road signs, vandalized like a ton of cars at the time. And as a result of this punishment, he had to be caned 4 times in Singapore. And it caused like great controversy. I mean, to be honest, that Fay guy, like, what did he expect was going to happen? You really think they were going to let you get away with this, get away with vandalizing in a different country? And so Fay had to be caned multiple times. In fact, the government, it could have been worse, like, because the government actually lowered the amount of times he would be caned because the American government wasn't too happy about that. So it's a crazy story. So Heyman wanted to capitalize off of that and have the Sandman use the cane in ECW. So when he talked to Sandman, Heyman actually pulled a branch off of a tree and he cut off the branches. He told Sandman to wrap tape around it and start cutting a promo with it. And that's how he got the Singapore Cane to be a thing in ECW, thanks to the Michael Fay incident and thanks to Paul Heyman wanting him to use it. And it's crazy that I imagine Paul Heyman outside by a tree, just pulling a branch out and just ripping off all the leaves and saying, "Here, Sandman, that's going to be your new weapon." So ECW was about to start a big storyline between Sandman and Raven, and they wanted to have a child be involved with it and a part of Raven's clan. An idea that was pulled out there, and I don't know if this has ever happened or if Macaulay Culkin would agree with it, but Macaulay Culkin was originally planned to be playing the Sandman's son in this storyline. Sandman heard that and he's like, nah. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not use my own son? That's right. Sandman's son is basically got included in that. And thus the story was born between Sandman's son joining Raven's flock. And Sandman's son was actually really, really good in this story. Like Tyler Hennigan, who is Sandman's son, like the kid could cut a promo. Like I believe he was either 7 or 8 years old. He was really young, but the dude can legit, like, he knows when to say things and how to say it. Like, he was a great promo. And if you go back and watch the entire feud, apparently, like, Tyler wasn't really scripted to say lines that much. And when Raven got Sandman's wife and son to follow him, during one of the promos, when Sandman was trying to get his son to come with him, Tyler basically straight up said, "Daddy, you're a drunk. I now worship Raven." And apparently that line was unscripted. I mean, the kid could got a promo, scripted or not scripted. So I give him credit. And I remember that they were filming a promo on the outside. And he never had to get taught or told to smile and dress up like Raven. He nailed the part perfectly. They were outside cutting a promo. I think it was raining at the time. And Raven was cutting a promo, and Tyler was like, believe in Raven. Like, it was so real. The kid had a talent of acting if you wanted to go in that direction. Miss Peaches, who was Sandman's ex-wife, didn't like him being in that environment. I mean, who could blame you? And we'll get to another reason why later, but I don't blame Miss Peaches for not wanting Sandman's son be involved here. So then they get into the crucifixion angle. This is one of the most disgusting parts. It was called the ECW high angle. What happened was during an ECW episode, Raven and the Sandman were going to take their feud to the next level, and Raven wanted to have Sandman feel his pain. So they decided to have an idea where they were going to crucify the Sandman by putting him on like a cross, putting barbed wire all around him. Yes, because it's such a great idea to include religion in a storyline. Sounds like a brilliant idea to basically crucify someone on live television. Apparently it was Sandman himself who built the cross too. And the barbed wire, it was a barbed wire crown on the top of his head. It was just so uncomfortable. And the worst part about the whole thing was Kurt Angle was going to sign with ECW at the time. But when this incident happened, he backed out of the deal and told Heyman never show his face on the show ever again. I don't blame him one bit because of storylines like that. And Angle wasn't stupid with Heyman, because Heyman claimed like he tried to pull the segment because he didn't know what was happening. Yeah, and Hulk Hogan is basically the most honest person in America. See how easy it is to tell stories? So yeah, you don't believe Paul Heyman there. It wasn't Angle that was upset. Steve Richards was upset about that happening. Sandman believes they did nothing wrong, and he was so angry that they were getting a ton of heat for it. Like, come on, man. You can't be doing stuff like that. You can't go on a TV show to get yourself crucified. And as a result of the bad heat that ECW got, Raven had to go cut an unscripted promo on the outside to apologize. And Paul was trying to get Kurt Angle back in the good graces and sign a contract with them, but didn't work out. He did not sign with the company, and he eventually went to WWE, I believe. So to get into Sandman's drug use and the injuries that he had, because in ECW, they had the hardcore wrestling style, and Sandman admitted he broke around like 27 bones in his body, which is just insane. Like, it's inhumane how you could break that many bones in the tenure that Sandman had. And what's concerning too is it's not counting the concussions too. Like, there was a story too where Sandman was in the middle of a match and they had to call Miss Peaches from home saying, "We need you to come over," because he doesn't remember anything. And Peaches thought it was a prank or like a rib, but Sandman was so concussed he didn't know what the heck was going on. And with the amount of injuries that was going on in ECW, Todd Gordon, who was the founder of ECW, straight up says in this documentary, like, he used to joke around that if you could pass a piss test, you can't work in ECW. Yeah, very funny. That sounds very great humor. You know, if you can't pass a piss test, you can't work here. Like, basically encouraging drug use happening. And I mean, it's no wonder that Miss Peaches didn't want Tyler to be in that type of environment with drugs all around. And Sandman was hooked on these drugs. Like, with the amount of pain he had, he even had a fanny pack full of drugs. And his kids would know what the drugs are, like what the bag of Coke was, what that pill was, not to take that, not to touch that, which was pretty sad that they would know that was going on. And what's crazy too was that he admitted that a lot of wrestlers had like 3 doctors that they would see in Philadelphia. And each month, Sandman would get a total of 270 Oxycontin pills, 300 Somas, 300 Percocets. I'm shocked the government didn't go after the ECW with the amount of drugs they were handing out. Like, that's an insane amount of drugs to get. And how they weren't caught with that amount of drugs in possession and, trafficking, it's crazy. I don't know how they did it, and it's insane. And eventually, in ECW, Sandman, like, he would even go into the steroids when he would join WCW, and he looked so awful in WCW. Like, RVD even said, like, it was the first time that Sandman actually looked like he worked out. I'm like, oh, that's funny. And just looking at old WCW photos of Sandman on the steroids, he looks like a totally different person. So creepy and crazy. So eventually, Sandman overdoses. Raven was doing this drug on the road. He was shooting them in the bathroom of gas stations, which gross. And Sandman sees Raven taking the drugs, and Raven's warning him, like, dude, you shouldn't take that drug. You shouldn't take that amount of drugs. Like, this is dangerous. Sandman's like, no worry. I've done plenty of drugs. Why not add another one to my long resume? So Sandman takes it, the same amount of drugs that Raven does. And while out on the road, he has trouble breathing. And his lips are turning blue. And Raven's telling, this is where Raven doesn't come off all that good in this documentary. Raven's telling this story about how Sandman's overdosing. He's not breathing, and his lips are turning blue. And Raven's laughing about it. He's like, his lips are turning blue. Yeah, very funny to joke about overdosing here, pal. Like, Raven might be a nice guy for all I know, but like, when you're joking about someone overdosing and like their lips are turning blue and you're smiling and laughing, that's not cool. Like, it's not cool at all. And luckily, Sandman, he was given a shot of adrenaline. He survived, but he stayed in the hospital for a time being. He actually left the hospital like at 4 a.m. He ripped all the stuff out of his arms, like all the needles, immediately went to another hotel, and he planned to tell his wife, never to tell his wife about the overdose, but she eventually got the hospital bill at the house. And when she found out, she was not happy at all. And it should have been the wake-up call for Sandman. But like I said, he gets into the steroids in WCW. He never went to the gym. It was weird. And it would start the abuse cycle that he would have with his wife. And it got ugly. Like, he was pouring beer on her. He would have to put a pillow on her head. There was abuse going on. Like, Lori, Miss Peaches, she basically admitted that she had enough that she would actually get $10,000 of steroids that Sandman had, and she would just dump them on the lawn. Who pays $10,000 for steroids? Like, that's that much steroids? Like, what a waste of money. But the thing I like about Sandman is he admits, like, what he did was wrong. He's clearly remorseful. Compared to other people in the business who have talked about this, they weren't. Sandman is absolutely remorseful for what he did, and he admits, like, Miss Peaches, his wife Lori, was an angel, and he wished he never treated her that way, and that they were still together to this very day. So I'm glad he realized he did was wrong, and that he has so much remorse. Eventually, both would eventually get divorced. Then they get into the 2008 arrest of Sandman. This was insane. Apparently, he had like 30 Long Island iced tea drinks. He was heavily intoxicated in a bar, and he eventually got into a fight with the owner and hit him with a glass bottle on his head. This wasn't mentioned in the documentary, but at that party, it was actually for Captain Lou Albano. I think it was around the time his birthday was, and Sandman he got drunk and he got arrested. So Sandman arrested his kids, had to run all around New York just to get $10,000 to bail him out at 3 a.m. They had to go to ATM to ATM to ATM to bail him out. And I felt bad for the kids. Like, no kid should have to go to ATM to ATM to ATM to collect $10,000 to bail their dad out. And when Sandman got out, his daughter was fire red engine pissed, and Sandman himself knew he messed up, and you could see Sandman breaking down, regretting what happens. And in the aftermath, he gets clean and sober. He did have a brief run in WWE, but it didn't last too long because WWE ECW was not good. I thought this was a really good episode. The fact that the man is still alive to tell a story is a miracle. Like, the amount of times he's OD'd, he did drugs. He should not be alive today, and I'm glad he is. The Sandman has taken accountability for all of his actions, which is awesome. And I would love to meet the man one day, because I guarantee you there was a ton of stuff that he didn't mention on the show. And he's clearly in a much better place right now, and he is sober, and that's all you could ask for. And I hope he's doing well today. And if you're out there, Sandman, watching this, I would love to meet you one day. That concludes my episode on review of the Dark Side of the Ring for the Sandman. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to have more Dark Side of the Ring videos coming out soon. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell down below. We will be live Ringside Rant Thursdays at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Monday Night Raw, we go live stream. We are going to also be expanding coverage to AEW shows. We'll be live for those as well. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. Acknowledge us.